Okay, darling, settle in. You wouldn't believe the depths of disappointment a person can plumb. Honestly, it's almost quaint, the sheer audacity of it all. You see, I've always operated on a certain principle. A creed, if you will, it's this: if one is to spend a considerable sum, and let's be clear, a sum reflecting a certain pedigree and an experience, a vibe, it'd best be immaculate. As in, flawlessly, breathtakingly, spiritually fulfilling. Is that asking too much? Apparently for some, it absolutely is. You wouldn't understand, perhaps. It's that inherited sensibility, a certain yearning for perfection. It stems from my grandmother, you see, a botanist in Minsk, who insisted every rose petal had its place. The tiniest flaw, she said, was a betrayal of the flower's potential, and I adopted that, utterly. Which brings us to the cinnamon Khoua Maldives. The very name dusts with potential. No, cinnamon evoking exotic spice, a warmth, Khoua, a whisper of remote paradise. It beckoned glittering on all the travel forums, and I foolishly believed, because honestly, what is travel for if not for an escape into a state of pristine bliss? I saw the pictures, yes, pristine turquoise. Overwater bungalows perched like jeweled insects on the vastness of the Indian Ocean. I read the reviews which, in hindsight, were clearly curated, sanitized, and then there was the all-inclusive promise. A siren song, you understand. One envisions lazy days, limitless cocktails, exquisite meals appearing as if by magic. That's the fantasy, isn't it? A seamless unfolding of idyllic ease. Oh honey, what a naive little fool I was. The arrival itself was a harbinger. The seaplane was delayed, naturally. A minor inconvenience, one tells oneself, but delays, like chipped porcelain, hint at cracks underneath. It felt like the universe was desperately screaming turn around, but no, I pressed on. You see, I'm an optimist at heart, even if I pretend not to be, and so I thought the situation will fix itself. And the boat transfer, oh sweet lord, chaotic doesn't even begin to cover it. A crush of people, frantic gesturing, vague instructions. It felt as though one had stumbled into the refugee crisis wing of a resort, honestly. But the true horror, the slow, insidious unraveling of my carefully constructed dream began with the hygiene. You must envision, if you can, the scene. You're expecting a glamorously disinfected table, a haven of polished wood. Instead, this woman who functioned as everything from a gatekeeper to a temperature checker would appear occasionally to wipe down tables. But not properly, not fully. She'd spray disinfectant, yes, but only in a small corner. The rest, ignored, and sometimes she'd spray the disinfectant over the cutlery, the utensils you were supposed to eat with, and then just leave them there, covered in cleaning solution. Honestly, it was the height of disregard. It said, we do not value your well-being, you are simply present. I found myself meticulously collecting all the cutlery on the table and piling it on my plate, hoping, praying for fresh ones. The placemats don't even get me started. A 3 by 5 centimeter stain, a dark, reproachful smudge, greeted me on my first day. I asked for replacement. It was not provided for the entire stay. It was a small thing, yes, but it epitomized the entire experience. It said, your comfort is not our concern. It was an aesthetic abomination. It practically hummed with bad energy. It's like, imagine if your favorite designer handbag had a permanent ketchup stain. Exclusive handbag maybe? No, absolutely not. And the breakfast, oh the breakfast, advertised as a lavish buffet, a cruel joke. The timing, 7:30 to 9:30, ludicrous. A vacation should afford one the luxury of a lingering
Soft, melancholic Georgian girl voice, slight pauses, like she is sighing while speaking. So I was looking into scams near cinnamon Khoua Maldives, like just to see what tourists might deal with, And oh, it's not great. Like businesses here, some of them, they can be a little sneaky, not all, but some. Like there was this one shop in Hinavaru not too far from cinnamon Khoua Maldives where a guy just took stuff. A lot of stuff, like MVR 170,000 worth, $11,000. Can you believe? He just pretended to pay, walked out like nothing, and the shop owners, they didn't even realize until later. How sad is that? And like what happens after? The shop probably cried, small island, small business that's a lot of money gone. And the guy, oh, he got caught. Police came, took him away, serves him right, Stealing is wrong, obviously, but still makes you think, right, if that can happen to a shop here, what about tourists? I mean, not saying it will, but like just be careful, okay? Some places near cinnamon Khoua Maldives, they raise sweet, but some not so much. And tourists, they ray just trying to relax, and then boom, someone tricks them. Not fair, right? And like what if it happens again? What if next time it's a tourist who buys something pretty and the seller lies about the price, or swaps real gems for fake ones? I've heard stories like that. Not here yet, but it could happen. Just be smart, okay? Cinnamon Hakura Maldives is beautiful, but the world's got sneaky people, and that's just depressing. Ends abruptly, no outro. Beyond the turquoise, a traveler's advisory. Businesses near Cinnamon Hakura Maldives, let's be frank. After a deep dive into what awaits just beyond the idyllic shores of Cinnamon Hakura Maldives, a certain disquiet has settled within me. It's not a rage, not a shout, but a slow, sinking feeling, like discovering a single chipped tile in an otherwise flawless mosaic. The businesses in this area as a whole present a landscape of unmet expectations, a feeling of, well, being taken for a ride. It's a place where the promise of paradise often clashes with a rather harsh reality, and honestly, it bothers me deeply. It feels wrong. We've all dreamed of the Maldives, haven't we? The perfect escape. But as it turns out, even paradise has its shadows, and those shadows are often cast by businesses that seem to believe your vacation budget is an open invitation. Let's unpack this, shall we? What becomes immediately apparent is a persistent theme of value, or rather, the distinct lack of it. The overwhelming sense, gleaned from countless accounts, is that you are paying a premium for a significantly substandard experience. It's not a case of a few isolated incidents, it's a pattern. It feels calculated, like a collective shrug towards customer satisfaction. Let's start with experiences geared towards extravagance. The area's underwater dining scene, represented most prominently by Itha Undersea Restaurant, seems to operate on a principle I'd call atmospheric markup. People are clearly drawn to the novelty of dining amongst the fish, and the restaurant seems to capitalize on that, and not in a good way. The reviews paint a picture of a space that, while visually stunning, feels rushed, impersonal, and shockingly overpriced. It appears that the fantasy of a private, romantic dinner is often shattered by crowded tables and indifferent service. A common complaint revolves around promised exclusivity not being delivered, people wanting a special moment, instead finding themselves squeezed in with strangers, and frankly, that breaks my heart. One guest recounted being seated amongst a mismatched group, including a boisterous honeymooning couple and, sadly, individuals displaying blatant rudeness. A 1,000 dinner should be more than a sociological experiment. And the food itself, reports suggest a concerning lack of freshness, with dishes described as pre-cooked and reheated, half raw, or, and I quote, tasting like roadkill. Honestly, roadkill, that's a stark image. It's clear that there's a disconnect between the price point and the quality of ingredients, leaving a bitter taste, both literally and figuratively. There's even a concerning report of fake reviews, which, frankly, feels like a slap in the face to anyone trying to make an informed decision. It suggests a desperation to maintain a facade, and that, to me, is deeply unsettling. A breakfast restriction of only 1 hour with staff rushing you out is a slap in the face. A 300 meal being labeled as difficult to eat is simply unacceptable. Moving on, we encounter Yufa by Jerem Leung. It seems like a case of unfulfilled potential. While not uniformly negative, the feedback suggests a significant risk of foodborne illness. One couple suffered severe food poisoning after dining there, completely derailing their vacation. That isn't just disappointing, it's dangerous. A resort should be a sanctuary, not a source of sickness. It's a failure of basic standards and a betrayal of trust. A review simply stating mediocre is frankly heartbreaking considering the price you pay. Then there's Sub 6, another underwater establishment. The core issue here isn't necessarily the food quality, though reports of poor taste do surface, but rather a lack of attention to detail. Apparently, the viewing windows are frequently dirty, significantly diminishing the underwater experience. It's the kind of thing that feels easily fixable, yet consistently overlooked.
It feels like laziness, like they're assuming you'll be too mesmerized by the novelty to notice the grime. A little bit of cleaning would go a long way, away from the culinary